Hey there traders, welcome to this video from the StockBandit.com. This is Jeff, and haven't done a video in a while. Wanted to kind of take a check-in of the market here and kind of consider where we are in the big picture. You know, we've rallied pretty nicely here. We have kind of carved out some support here in the last several weeks, and we've lifted. We finally broke through this 41.85 here for the NASDAQ with a gap up last week on the holiday shortened week. Remember, we were closed on Monday for Memorial Day, gapped higher after closing right at that 41.85 the previous Friday. So we did rally this past week. We tacked on a little over 1% for the NASDAQ, and so it's becoming a little bit extended here after a pretty sizable run just off this mid-May low. So for now, we've kind of got this unfilled gap down to 41.85. If we do happen to pull back, I would expect this level to at least initially get defended. On the way up, we still have a little bit more room here before we start to challenge this next prior high, which is 42.86. So keep a close eye on this gap and this prior high as a couple of levels there. For the S&P 500, made new highs last week, new all-time highs. We saw big volume along with a strong close on Friday. We've seen a lot of strong closes Friday, Thursday, Tuesday, the previous Friday, as well as the prior Wednesday. When I'm counting backwards, it gets a little confusing. Prior Monday, previous Friday. Lots of strong closes here for the S&P, and so that's kind of just given us this slow grind move here to the upside. And that's not the type of move that you want to be fighting, especially at brand new highs. So even though we've seen kind of a little bit of lagging in the small caps and in the NASDAQ compared to the S&P and the Dow, the fact is that this index is moving higher and it's just really not acting bearish yet. We got to wait for bearish price action before we can start to really initiate trades on the short side. On any pullback, keep a close eye on 1902. That was this prior high, and then this 1883 level that was really such a tough level to get through. Once we finally got through it and started to make a little bit of headway there, we've seen some continuation here that's solid, but now price may be due for a little bit of a rest. The Russell also gained a little bit of ground last week, but it was less than 1%. We have this unfilled gap right down here to this 1126 level. This 1137 was cleared last week a couple of times, but we've now fallen just beneath that. On the way back up, we've got, of course, at 1137, we've got 1157, and then this one right here, 1160. I think that's the big level on the upside to keep a close eye on, whereas this gap right here to 1126, kind of the first order of business if we happen to pull back. 1079 is this big level down here. To zoom out, we'd have to see that. That goes all the way back to November of last year. Then we've got the Dow, which is right up here facing the all-time high right up here at 16,735. So just a few points from there, we could see a new all-time high here for the Dow. This 16.3 area has been kind of the most recent support zone, and then beneath that is going to be down here closer to 16,000. So we've got a couple levels here to watch, but really we've spent a lot of time in this trading range right here, which is 550 to 600 points wide. That could project a measured move up to the 17.2 area, but first things first, we're going to have to get through this 16,735 high. Volatility, the VIX really just kind of hitting the dirt here. We're making multi-year lows here. Close at 1132. Or I should say we saw a low on Friday of 1132. That was the low for the week. You got to zoom pretty far out to see anything beneath that level, especially on a closing basis. So this really just points to a lack of concern, just lots of complacency in the broad market. Let's take a look at a handful of momentum stocks. Apple, it's kind of coming into this split, and it's made a pretty nice run here. Then it's all kind of a little bit of a fatigue type of move on Friday with this high volume kind of downside reversal. It didn't sell off a whole lot for the day, I should say, down $2.38, but it did give up 11 from the high of the day to the close. So that was a pretty good turnaround. Just really kind of points to some fatigue after this big sharp run up. I would give that a little bit of time to rest. SPLK, this is another one that made a big move on Friday to the downside. Massive volume. They had another miss. And you can just see all these lower highs in place as this thing continues to channel lower. We did see a pretty decent little bounce here. If I zoom way in on the chart, you can see that we had a low right here on May 15th of 41.07. We saw a rally over the next 2 weeks to $50.74. That's a significant lift, but we never did see that pullback to create a higher low. If this was the low on the chart, we never pulled back and made that higher low. Instead, we gapped to the downside and then just continued lower on Friday, made a new low for the stock, new correction low at 41.05. And so, it's really enticing to a lot of people for some reason to see a stock that was, $106 back at the end of February, now down here under $50. It really kind of looks like a bargain by that standard, but the fact is the trend is still down, and we have seen no change of character here to suggest that some kind of lasting upside is going to occur. And so whenever the trend is down, the surprises oftentimes happen in the direction of the trend, and that's what took place here. A couple more. Netflix really has seen a big lift here coming off this short-term higher low that it established. Also made a higher high there, and then saw some really nice follow-through, and just lots of continuation here. Now it is kind of coming up into this big congestion zone here from earlier this year, and price is definitely a little bit extended here. It certainly could stand to put in a little bit of a rest. WDAY. This is another one that has kind of seen some subtle positive changes of character here. We saw a higher low here on the daily chart. We also saw this descending trend line get broken to the upside, and price held above that break, continued higher. Now we've seen a quick little 2-day pullback, but I like that the downside volume has been much lighter on this dip, and I do think that this will eventually carve out some kind of a higher low here and then provide some sort of a turn back up type of play. But it's a fast moving stock, so it's one that's got to be watched very closely. One more, Tesla. This thing has really struggled to get through this 219, 220 area that it has challenged on a number of occasions here, and here. Then this past week, we saw a rally right up near that level, but we didn't quite get through it. Price finished on the downside on Friday, and now it's kind of hugging this rising support. Any break below about 205, and we could see Tesla undergo a little bit of short-term pullback or some profit taking. So there's a kind of a quick overview of some of the momentum names. If you're looking for some additional trade ideas to add to your own, check out the free trial that we offer here at thestockbandit.com. And other than that, thanks for joining me for the video. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Trade well this next week, and I'll catch you soon with another update.